we're going to paint the Hello Fall shelf decoration. The first thing you're going to want to do is take everything out of your box and then disassemble it so that it lays flat, and you can use that to paint on. I just have an old piece of paper, which is fine as well, but you definitely want something because you're going to be dabbing some paint onto it. The next thing I like to do is organize my pieces by color. So I take my black paint pot and I set it at the top, and then I put all the pieces that I want to paint black to the top. Sorry, my son's coming home from school, and so my dogs heard the bus, so they're getting really excited to see their brother. So if you're painting the same as I did, just follow along with the pictures. So this piece and the Hello Fall will be black, so I set that out of the side. I set the blue out to the side, and then my cream pieces. And that's what I'm gonna start with first. So I'm gonna turn this down a little bit so you can see that. So first things first, get your baby wipe. If it has dried out because maybe it took a little bit longer for you to get to your craft, then get a spray bottle and mist it. You do not want it to be dripping wet, but it does need to be damp. And then get your cream color. I did cream instead of white because that just feels a little more like fall instead of the bright white. So I wanted it to look a little rustic, and I'm planning on sanding some of the pieces. So instead of painting it with a foam brush, which is going to make it a pure cream background, I'm going to use this so that the wood grain can still fall through. So you're going to dip a little bit in your white, or dip the white in the cream paint, and then just start wiping. I like to go the direction of the grain of the wood. And make sure that you keep going in the same direction so that it doesn't look too chaotic and you don't have to do too much sanding. And you can always do several coats of this, and the more coats you do, the more paint is going to be laid down. So if you did want to cover the background completely, am I completely off the side? You could do that. Just do multiple coats. Charlie, no. I'm gonna have to pause when he sees his brother walking down the street because he's gonna start barking, and usually I open the door and let them run down to see him. Once I get to the side, as you can see, I just kind of, it's not pretty. I just kind of go off like that because I don't want to get drips down my side. I like to keep the sides dark. Once I'm done with this, I'll pause in between. Once I start, I mean. Normally I just show you a little bit and then I pause so the video doesn't get too long, but this one doesn't take too long. Okay, then I'm gonna let it dry completely, and I actually think I'm gonna do one more coat. I think I want it a little bit more, as you can see, I mean, it doesn't look even because it's still wet in places, but I think I want a little more coverage. So I'm gonna push pause, I'm gonna let it completely dry, and I'm gonna do the same technique one more time. Okay, I finished the 2 coats and that covered it very well. I'm gonna wait until it completely dries because I might end up sanding it as well, but I wanna see what it looks like once it's dry. So I'm gonna take these other pieces because I'm gonna do them cream as well. So take one of your little wedges, dip it in your paint pod, and then you're gonna get, you don't want it dripping because you're going to dab off the excess and then just lightly dab up and down. If you do really light coats and you make sure that it's not dripping wet with paint, you won't cover your sides and it will look really nice. I always say, if it does get on the sides, that's totally fine. Just, you can either leave it or you can use a baby wipe or a damp paper towel to wipe it off. And just know that you're gonna want to do 2 coats usually with this method to get a full coverage. I'm gonna be sanding this, so normally I would say just do 1, but with the white color, that doesn't cover as well. So I think I'm gonna do 2 anyways. And then with the darker colors, I'm only gonna do 1. Okay, so doing this technique, paint, and use a clean wedge for each one. Do the cream, do the black, and do the blue, and then I will get back on here when it's time to sand. As some of you probably noticed, I was getting ready to do my second coat and realized this is supposed to be blue. So the one with the cutouts is white. So don't make my mistake. Okay, once you're done painting, make sure that all of your pieces are completely dry. And once they are, then get your sandpaper if you want to distress it. And then we are going to, since it's on the table, it's going to be wobbly. We're going to distress some of these pieces. I'm going to do heavier distressing on the dark pieces, but on the light, I'm just going to do very little. So just use a really, really light touch. This piece, I don't know if you can tell, it's already kind of distressed from using the baby wipe, so I don't really need to do that much. Is it shaking a lot? Probably. And this is gonna get dusty. I'm not gonna focus too much on the bottom because that's where my most of it's gonna be covered anyways. So then I'm going to do all of the white pieces. And like I say, I'm just gonna keep it really light with those. Like on the delicate pieces like the stem, just be really soft and go in the direction of the stem, just so that you don't break it off. I mainly like to concentrate on the edges because that makes it look a little more like natural distressing, because that's where it would age first. Okay, I'm gonna finish distressing my pieces. I'm going to start with white, then I'm gonna go to the blue, then I'm going to go to the black, because I do not want dark color to transfer onto the lighter pieces. So, and I'm going to do the white and the blue on one end and then move to the black on the other. When you're doing the letters, the biggest thing is use a really light touch and just be really gentle so that you're not snapping your letters. You can always go back and add more paint if you need, if you've taken too much off. So use a really light touch until you get the look that you're going for. Once you have everything distressed the way that you want, I'm going to show you a technique if you want to add a little bit more dimension. This is completely optional, but get your baby wipe. Hopefully it's still a little bit damp. If not, just get it a little damp. Find a clean end and wrap it around your finger. So the first thing I'm doing, I'm gonna take this little mini leaf. I think it's this, yep, it's the littlest one. I'm going to dip the baby wipe in the blue, and I have hardly any on here. Then I'm gonna go a step farther and rub most of it off on the side. And then I'm just gonna lightly go and hit the edges of this leaf. I don't want to put too much on there and have to start over. just so, I don't know if you can see because the sun comes right through that window and I have the worst lighting in this house for taking pictures or trying to do video. Okay, the next one, that's all I'm gonna do for the black, or I mean the blue. The rest, excuse me, will be black. I'm going to do the pumpkin, the middle of the pumpkin, and then this leaf. Now with the black, since it's an even darker color, you wanna do a really, really light touch. So find a corner. Mine is kind of drying out. I might need to spritz it in a little bit. Put like the littlest bit, rub most of it off, and just go lightly around the edges. If you don't want that, you don't have to do this step at all. And so then it just gives it a little bit more dimension. It's almost like outlining a picture when we're like in elementary school and you had to trace everything. This also, if you distressed it and you went around the edges, that will help show this off even more. And then I went through the baby wipes, so I'm not worried too much about it looking perfect because since if you like yours to be more in control, you make it however you want it to look. For me, since I want it to look a little bit more rustic, I'm okay if some parts go outside of the line or it's a little bit heavier in some areas. I'm okay with that. Okay, and then I'm gonna put it together while not gluing it. I'm gonna put the whole sign together to see how I like it. First, I'm gonna make sure I don't set it in wet paint. So I just looked at like what side I like better because I'm gonna be covering up the bottom part. And I'm gonna try to keep it as close to going even with the grain as I can, or as straight, I should say. Okay. By doing this step, you can see how it's gonna look together, so you know if it all kind of matches. I am going to do, I think I'm going to outline this one with the black, and then we'll come back when it's time to put it together. Now it's time to put it together, the exciting part. Okay, first things first, make sure all the dust is off. Use a paper towel and not your hand to wipe it off. Then if you didn't completely saturate the background, you probably have like lines that you can kind of see. Try to make those as straight as possible, unless you want it going the other way. It's up to you. And then get this piece. I didn't paint that part because it's being covered by a pumpkin. So if you're new to these kits, I send super glue. If you have wood glue, you can use that. Super glue is just easy to pack because it comes in single serve options, whereas wood glue does not. And There's pros and cons to both. This is very fast drying, so your project is going to be ready right after you're done with it. Wood glue takes 20 minutes to an hour to completely dry. Probably less on these little projects, to be honest, but it is more forgiving because then you can move things more. So if you're going to be doing these a lot, and you don't like the super glue, then I would suggest just buying wood glue, and it will last you so long. Okay, so a little goes a very long ways. So I focus, you don't need to saturate at all. I focus on the edges, and then I'll probably put a little bit in the middle, and it dries pretty quickly. So on big pieces like this, you want to move pretty quick. So I'm going to do like a V there, there. I want some on the edge, and then like that. Then I'm going to, as best I can, make it match the middle and the bottom, and then press it down for 5 to 10 seconds. And I'm focusing on the edges since that is where I put the super glue. If your wood is more warped, then you're gonna wanna hold it down for longer. So be aware of that. Then let's put the pumpkin together. So actually I'm going to, so I sent you with 2 different kinds of sandpaper. I explained this in the instructions. The rough sandpaper is for distressing. The smooth sandpaper, that's like a detail sander. So, oh, you know what? No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Yes. So on some of these where the black is a little bit heavier, if you don't like that, if you use the detail sander, it will help blend that in. So you don't see just a harsh line. It's more of a blend, and it just looks smoother. Again, you should use a paper towel, but I don't care unless it transfers onto my, I'll use a baby wipe, unless it transfers onto my paint, then I do care. Okay, same thing. I'm gonna focus on, I'm gonna quickly do the leaf, the stem, and then boop, 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 just like that with the super glue. And you do not want a heavy coat right on the edge, or else it's going to, like I kind of just did, or else it's going to squirt out. So line up the leaf, should match perfect, the stem, and the edge of the pumpkin. And then go this way, just gonna hit some random parts on this. And as long as you don't drop your craft, it's gonna last so long. Okay. Then this leaf that I painted, the littlest one, I am going to just put it on, I'm looking at all my pieces right now. I'm just gonna put it kind of like on the edge. So I don't wanna put super glue here. So I'm just gonna do the bottom half. That down for just a little. Okay, now the next thing I'm gonna do is I want to make sure I lay out the letters and the leaves to make sure that it fits. You can put them however you want. If you want to put a bow on the top of yours, you're gonna wanna put these leaves somewhere else. Or you can kind of lay them more out to the side if you want the bow here. So you decide how you want yours to go. So now that I have, and it's pretty even because I want to make sure that they're even on the sides. I like this font because it's bouncy, so it's forgiving. So if it's not exactly straight, it's okay. I'm gonna do it right there. Yes. Okay, so I'll do the hello first. So I'm just gonna focus on kind of the fatter parts while hitting the edges on some of the skinny ones, but not all of them. You definitely want to do something in the front and something in the back, if that even made sense. Okay. I thought I was going to the camera, but I probably did that completely off. Oops. Charlie, that's not his bus. And then I'm going to eyeball. Except for my hand is a little bit glued. This is what your hands look like if you don't wash them right after. Okay, I'm not gonna do a bow on mine. So I'm going to do mine like this, I think. Yep, that's how I like it. No, no, Charlie. Charlie, don't do it. Don't do it. I didn't even think. My leaf is hanging off the edge, so I shouldn't have put super glue on that end, but it's okay as long as I make sure I don't stick anything underneath it until it dries. But this one obviously is going on top, so it needs all of it. Okay. It's all glued. And there you have your Hello Fall shelf or mantle decor.